hello, and welcome to another episode of A Seat at the Table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton. Today, we're going to take a little different angle. These are definitely decision makers, but it's not along the lines of public service with regards to being in elected office. It's in fact more important. We have young men who are leading young men. What we're going to talk about today with two of our leaders of young men and women, if they come out, if young ladies come out as well, um, is the importance of being a student athlete during this season that we know is coming up, i.e., football season. Uh, so, two of our guests joining us today are going to be local football coaches. One is very much established as a player and coach. Another one I'm very proud of is becoming established as far as what we should be doing in terms of our fruit bearing witness to our service. He's a young man who is in a new position of head coach, entering into his first year, bringing in a whole new, for the most part, coaching staff of young, quality, qualified talent, and being a shining example, as is our first more seasoned coach will say, doing in two local school districts. I wanted to highlight these individuals in particular because they are leaders of young men. In essence, leaders are our community of central Pennsylvania. And I'm going to introduce first the senior on the call, which is Mr. Andrew Erby, still High's head football coach. And I'm going to second, and surely not least, is a young man entering into his first year at Central Dauphin East High School as their coach is Mr. Lance Dean Jr. How you doing, gentlemen? Thank you for joining me.
Appreciate
Thank
you
you. Thank
having
you.
us. Appreciate you having us, boss.
Definitely, definitely. So, what we're going to do is get straight to the point. And what does it mean to the two of you? And I'm going to start with Coach Erby. What does it mean to you? And you're in a unique situation because not only are you leading young men, you're leading two of the young men that you help create here in society in terms of your twins. So, what is it like for you to be a leader amongst young men in today's society, understanding the challenges, but also the benefits of overcoming those challenges as a student athlete and with you at that leadership position? What does that mean to you?
I think it's truly a blessing. We have an opportunity to make an impact on young men and young women and be role models and expose them to the positives of team sports. And we just use sports and football as a vehicle to drive home life lessons to help change outcomes of lives. And I think it's just a blessing. And one of the reasons why I think it's so important because I was, given the opportunity to instill these core values into my own children, but it's even a better opportunity to instill them to many young women across, Pennsylvania, because we're exposed to a lot of student athletes, females and boys. So I just think it's a great opportunity and a blessing to teach young people life lessons.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. Mr. Dean, sir, what about yourself? Talk a little, what does it mean for you? And you're not that far removed,
Right,
actually,
right,
from
right.
these young people. What does it
Yeah.
mean to you to be in this position?
This is a blessing, like Coach Herbie said. It's something definitely one that I don't take for granted. And in my situation where, I'm obviously a lot younger than most people in my position. I think it's something that a lot of people like to shine a light on in the sense of concern or questions, but at the same time, it's something I like to take and run with. I look at it first and foremost in the sense that I'm a coach just like anybody else. A coach, I just happen to be young, and I think that's important for our youth to see. As somebody that grew up in Harrisburg, um, my parents always instilled two big things in me: always remember where you came from, and it always takes a village to raise a kid. So I'm just trying to become a part of that village for a lot of these kids. And I know growing up in this quote unquote, and this doesn't necessarily speak for everybody, but in the majority, when we think about people, the quote unquote, like I said, make it out, we think about people, that leave and go somewhere else. And there's nothing against people that do that because everybody has their own calling. Some people are meant to do certain things. However, I just feel as if my calling was always to come back here and put myself in position, to be a leader, and mentor our youth and our future here.
Definitely, I echo those sentiments. Definitely. So, Coach Erby, talk about how I didn't say how long you've been coaching. How long have you been coaching as the coaching overall, and how many years have you been a head coach at Still High?
This will be my 8th year as head coach, but I started in 2008. So I had a long journey. And this will be my 8th year as head coach. But again, I got into the game probably a little bit younger than Coach Lance, and both had the same mission. So this will be my 8th year as head coach, and I started coaching about 2008.
Okay. And Coach Dean, I mean, this is maybe your first head coaching job, but this is not your first coaching job.
Right. Yeah.
You-
I
Yeah.
spent a couple years over at McDevitt, and then this past year, I was part of the state championship team with Coach Erby as a defense coordinator over at Steelton. So, yeah, not as quite as much as the old man over there, but a couple years.
There you go. And that's and I like the thing that I loved is the fact that you've only been coaching since 2008. I'm saying only because you're still relatively young, Coach Herbie, but your level of success and your level of quality assistance is bearing fruit already in a young man who was just with you, who basically just left college, quite frankly, just left high school. I remember him, so my grades are starting to show at this point. But that, is a testimony to not only you and your body of work and your book of business, but also the level of rapport that you've built around Central Pennsylvania. So I'm sure you got the call about whether or not Mr. Dean Jr. was worthy of this position. I'm certain you received those calls, and it has to say something about your program that another program would take someone in a leadership role at his ripe young age, although quality and qualified, but to be in the leadership role of, quite frankly, the largest, the second largest school district in Central Pennsylvania. So, I mean, how does that make you feel? Even though he's calling you the old guy now, out of love.
Well, like I said, I was aware of Lance Dean prior to even being a part of my staff about his hard work, his commitment to the youth. But one thing that really caught my eye was his commitment to the community. I seen him with shoe drives, book bag drive, food drives. So I felt I seen from just his body language and what he brought to the table, it was more than a sport for him. So he was an educator. There was nothing about positive things about him. And when I even talked to him about as far as football, once I talked to football, I was in awe because I was thinking like he reminded me so much of myself where it's like we're obsessed with the helping people in the community and all those good things. So it was almost like a mirror image. So when I brought him to the table, there wasn't a doubt in my mind. And I said, after speaking to him and after seeing what he does, I knew he would be a head coach and I knew I was on the clock because once he was able to showcase his ability, I knew he would be a head coach, whether it be this year, next year, or 2 years from now. But I knew he was destined for that. And his preparation and his commitment to our team and our players and to our community in just a short time was amazing. So, and to be honest, it's probably his choice to coach in high school. He could easily be coaching in college or even next level. So, even though he is a young man, you're getting a highly qualified and a student of the game, and he's continued to learn, and he makes other people around him better. And he's a great person and a great father off the field. So that was a win-win for me.
And definitely. And with that, what I like to do is we're going to take a small commercial break. And on the other side of this, Coach Dean, I'm gonna let you respond to those high accolades and praise that you just had bestowed upon you, and I'm sure it's reciprocated. But although we know there's going to be time to get on that gridiron, um, that thing is going to be real. It's going to get real. But I want you to respond to that, those accolades that were just bestowed upon you after this quick commercial break. For those of you out there watching, we are definitely having some fun here with the head football coach of Steelton Highspire and Central Dauphin East High School, On the other side of this, our young man, Coach Dean, is going to respond to Coach Erby. And then we are going to bring on athletic director and head Harrisburg High football coach, Calvin Everett. So we'll see you on the side of this commercial. Thank you. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you. You're again here live with Karl Singleton in a seat at the table. We are joined by Steelton Highspire's head football coach, Mr. Andrew Erby, and Central Dauphin East High School's football coach, Mr. Lance Dean Jr. Before we allow you to respond to those high praises, Lance, what we're going to do is we're going to bring in Coach Calvin Everett, welcome him to the stage, Harrisburg High's athletic director as well as head football coach. How you doing, Coach Cal?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
All is well, and he is hands free, ladies and gentlemen. So he's leading by example. All is well. What we're going to do is, again, I'm sure you know the other two gentlemen on the line. We've all had various conversations throughout the year. We touched a little bit on what it means to be the leader of young men in this day and age. I know most of you are on your way, if you're not already, as your practice facilities. So I promised that hard 355 stop that the young lion said he's going to hold me to, Mr. Dean Jr. there. So I'll get out of the way. And real quick, Lance, if you want to respond back to Coach Erby before we went to commercial break, I thought that was big and
Yeah.
high, well deserved.
So yeah, when the job at first came open, I think he was the first person that I called. And I just asked him what he thought about it, and like without even giving it a second thought, he immediately like you should apply like 110. I support you, whatever you need, whether it's a letter of recommendation, anything you need, because he just instilled that confidence and belief in me, and it was the same confidence and trust that he gave to me once he hired me. He made it very well aware. I don't want you coaching on eggshells. I got you here for a reason. And at the same time, he helped prepare me for the position I'm in now, in the sense of, obviously X and O's is one thing, but more importantly, just how to deal with kids and how to run a program. And obviously that led to, obvious success for him. And just to be a part of that is something that was memorable and something I won't forget. So it's one of those things where just seeing the trust and confidence that he had in me, it only wanted to make me work harder, or getting on huddle and checking and seeing that he got 22 hours in and I only having 7 or 8, that makes me want to get back and work because he's working so hard in that sense. So just the confidence, the trust, and the overall support is something, that I don't take for granted, and it's much appreciated.
Definitely. That's big. Coach Cal, we've already went over the resumes, how long they've been coaching, and the person with the most experience on here is Mr. Dean Jr., I'm sure. But can you share with us your resume and how many years you've been a head coach, and what it means to you to be the leader of young men in this day and age, especially of our in our central Pennsylvania region, as we're talking about here.
I've been the head coach at Harrisburg High School for 11 years now, and in terms of what it means to be a leader in this day and age, I think it's extremely important. Our youth right now, they need us more than ever. Not that they, didn't need us in the past, but I think right now, it's extremely important. With everything that's going on in society, we just have to be that prime example that's going to lead them, on the right path.
Definitely. And so with 11 years of experience, and anyone can take this question here, knowing what our young men are up against and our young women, quite frankly, in central Pennsylvania, if you, which you really, well, it's almost unfair for Mr. Erby, but if you were able to tell your own kids something about yourself outside of the house in terms of what you're doing, and when you have kids, Mr. Dean, if you don't have kids already, um,
I do.
you do. Okay,
I do.
congratulations. What would
Appreciate
be
that.
the top two things you would like to impart upon your players in hopes that they take home and help influence those individuals in their community? And we can start with Cal.
Well, I think it's important to one set goals. Without goals, I mean, you need some direction. You need to have something to shoot forward to. So I think one of the most important things is always have goals. And another thing that's big with me is character. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, it's all about what you do when people aren't watching, when the lights are out. So, if you can do those two things for me, those would be two things that that I would start with. Just set goals and have good character.
Okay, setting goals, a model, and good character. Perfect. What would you say, Coach Erby?
I would say, and I got this from the legendary Coach Calvin Everett. I would say be dependable. Be able to show up. Be able to be accountable, because that's one of the biggest things that kids lack is can we trust you? Can we depend on you? Can you show up? And the second part of that is our motto's been for the room. Be able to put someone else first beside yourself, whether it be family, whether it be in the community, whether it be your team. We all play a role, so care about others also. It's not always about you. And a lot of times, especially as coaches, 99% of what we do is often for someone else. And 99% of behind the scenes, what we do, and I can speak for all three of us, there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes that has nothing to do with football, just to make things possible and what we go above and beyond. So I have a lot of respect for the other two gentlemen on the horn with us, because I know the tasks that they deal with and how they conquer and continue to work.
And I allowed them to go first, young Lion, just in case you didn't have anything to say. And use them as a cheat sheet. See how I hooked you up?
I appreciate that. Consider it right there. But I would have to say first adversity. You are who you are when everybody, whether it's in the sport or just in life in general, when things is going well and ideal, like you picture perfect, like you assume, you're one person. But what happens when adversity hits? Who are you then? And that's when you're truly tested. And the next one will be just controlling the controllable. There's a lot of things that happen on a day-to-day basis as an athlete and as it is, in day-to-day life that you can't control. Don't allow that to take over your day. Don't allow that to control your emotions. Focus on what you can focus on and just control the controllable.
I really respect that, definitely. And as I promised you all, I would definitely have you hard stop at 3:55, because there's something, I guess, called workouts that you guys are in charge of with these young men and women on the team. So what I'd like to do is give each of you 2 minutes, if you may, 2-3 minutes, and give your closing remarks. And the only thing that I ask is that you agree that you'll come back on at least the beginning and mid-season, have updates so we can talk about your student athletes, and of course at the end of the season when all of you will be state champions. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I won't even mention the one who didn't come on, that Poteet guy.
Yeah.
We're at East, but we shared a lot of pleasantries at this past weekend's cookout. So there's going to be a lot of discussions, we'll say, at that East and Harrisburg game in particular. So with that being said, in all seriousness, I admire and respect the leadership roles all three of you have. I know Coach Joe Heaton from Susquehanna Township was going to join us. However, he had Wi-Fi connection issues as he lays on the beach on vacation. I know everybody's envious of that. I can't thank you enough, Coach Cal, because I know you're in between picking up your young people and transporting them to and from childcare and home, and definitely trying to get back to the facility so that you can start your workouts. So with that being said, take your shot first, young Lion. Go ahead, Coach Dean.
Just more or less what in the sense of the season.
No, just overall, just you want to end, whatever you want to end with, however you
All
like.
right, I mean, I just appreciate you having me on here. I appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to coming back. I'm looking forward to the season and just being able to be in a position to just empower our future generations and win a lot of football games. So, like I said, I look forward to coming back, and I appreciate you having me on here.
Definitely open invitation, Brother Erby.
Well, if these two ain't gonna say it, I'm gonna say it, Mr. Singleton. There's no way it could be two 6A teams. They will have to go through each other. So all I want to know is what's all this sugarcoating going on? And I want to know is I'm not trying to be funny, but when did Harrisburg and East ever become a rivalry? Can somebody answer that? Is that a
Let me
rivalry
answer
game
that.
or is it, I really don't know. I never heard that.
Let
I'm
me
just
answer
asking.
that one. Let me answer that. As the only non-coach on here, we became a rival when Jamil Poteet started talking cash trash to Big Cat over at Big Irv's house this past cookout weekend, celebrating me and Irv's mom's 70th birthday party. Because it was all of the kids until Jamil Poteet opened up that trap. I wasn't gonna let Coach Cal know about it. I was gonna have a sidebar with him, But now Coach Cal at the closing remarks, as a Cougar, we ain't gonna talk about Harrisburg East, So shots fired. No, no pun intended. Not shots fired, but no, taking that down. It's on you, Coach Cal.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for having me on. Anytime there's anything I can do to support or anything I can do to, help us receive support, I'm all for it. So I definitely, thank you for, allowing me to get on here. And I'm also extremely thankful to be in the position that I'm in to be able to have a positive influence on our young men and women, in our community. And I'm actually, I'm excited for season. It's a whole lot of talk going on right now. Everyone from different camps is saying this and saying that, and so it's just an exciting time right now. It's nothing personal. It's just good for the community. It's good football, and I just can't wait till August gets here.
That was very classy of you, Coach Cal. And you know what? I'm a little ashamed of myself for letting the Steelton guy cause animosity. I fell into the trap. I apologize.
Carl, I do have one thing to say before we go.
Yes,
We're
sir.
looking to upgrade our facilities at Steelton Highspire. We're looking to get a track. We're looking to do our field with a scoreboard, locker rooms, and grandstands. So we will be reaching out looking for donors to support us that and build a relationship because we're looking to build a new sports complex on Cottage Hill, looking to upgrade things because our student athletes really deserve it. So we'll be reaching out to a couple donors here shortly. But I appreciate you having us on. And it's always a pleasure to be a part of it. And it's all fun and games and love.
Hey, and let me just say this. This is in all sincerity. The rivalry is something that's on the field. These are all of our kids. You have an open invitation. We would definitely be reaching out when you see fit. We can use some time here on this platform. This is our platform, and those are our kids down in Steelton as well. So if we want to do some campaigning, some outreach for that particular purpose, and the same is true for Central Dauphin East, Susquehanna, and Harrisburg. This is a platform that is here for all of us because they're all of our kids, as I stated. And so this is a platform you can use so we can engage even some of the sponsors we've already built relationships with. What's ours is yours, and we are equal partners here and willing to share. So thank you for putting that plug in at the end, but we are willing to do an entire show on that, much like the Penn State jumpathon or raising for cancer or whatever it is. There's some things that Susquehanna, Harrisburg, Steelton, and Central Dauphin East could definitely use. I'm sure. So we're willing to help with that in those endeavors. So again, thank you to all of you for thinking of that robbery, for joining us here right before you have to go to practice. I am within that 3:55 hard stop that I promised. I'm even leaving you some time to get a little water break, as you know. So go ahead and hydrate. Thank you. And again, we'll follow up with this conversation and more so ways that the communities in central Pennsylvania can be helpful to at least these four programs that were highlighted here on Seat at the Table with Karl Singleton today. Thank you all. Best wishes to all of you, but most importantly, academic success to your players and injury-free seasons for all of you. Stay well. Wish you and your families well. We'll have you back on again.
Thank you.
All right.
Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of A Seat at the Table, hosted by yours truly, Karl Singleton. Here at the Seat at the Table, we pride ourselves on bringing individual decision makers and or groups to our audience, or those individuals that have contacts with those decision makers to our audience, so that we can ensure that our community needs are met with viable resources. With that being said, we have this distinct pleasure and honor to have one of Harrisburg's own, someone that I looked up to in high school, not only as an athlete, but first and foremost as a student, but as an individual that was in our community, real low key profile, but always leading by example, always holding his peers, especially those of us that were younger, in high regards and respect. And so it was a good peer pressure that I was under when in this young man's presence, we'll say. And that was whether it was in the hallways at Harrisburg High, whether that was in the Hill area when I would visit in the park or wherever it was when we were interacting in the city of Harrisburg. And that man is none other than Mr. Justin Reeves. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Justin Reeves to the set at this time.
I appreciate it. I'm not used to you calling me Mr. Reeves, so
I know,
it's
right?
a little bit of a learning curve, but I'm sure we'll both get through it. How's everything with you, Mr. Singleton?
All right. You don't have to call. I'm still Pi though. And I'm still gonna call you Peace.
I didn't know I could call you that now, but okay, Pi. That's how we know it. And you know me as Peace, so bringing it back.
But that says, I mean, that right there. So, and the bottom line is just the name that you carried, even in high school and amongst your peers, was Peace. Justin Peace Reeves. Now you say it's because you was fast and was leaving everybody in the dust at that Z back position, but we just thought it's because you was a nice gentleman, that young man that was grown into becoming a well respected gentleman. So, but either way, the name still sticks with you. And Pi for me. So nothing's really changed except for the grades. We'll say that. So welcome. Thanks for joining us on the seat at the table.
Thank you.
And being one of Harrisburg's own, it's always great to be able to interact from afar now, but look forward to seeing you in person whenever you're passing back through and stopping through. So just welcome. Thank you. Introduce yourself to the audience, please.
My name is Justin Reeves, class of '89, Harrisburg High. And what more can I say? Played ball at Harrisburg. Went to Villanova. I was blessed to be on a full scholarship. And, got through my years and, not in the league, never went into the league. But then I got my education. Settled in Philadelphia. Ended up getting my master's degree in about 2001. I'm blessed enough to have 3 children. One, my oldest daughter, Julia, who just graduated from Cornell last year, so I'm massively proud of her. And I have 2 little boys, Justin Jr., who is 6 going on 7, going on 40. And my youngest is Jacob Isaac Reeves. So he is 3.5. So, I have gray hairs, but I have little ones running around, so they're keeping me young. I graduated Nova. I got a degree in human services, got my master's degree in human services. I was a therapist by trade, working with children and families in the communities of Philadelphia for about 20 years. And, my life took a turn, and I always had real estate. I had a real estate in Harrisburg, purchased some of my own properties, and then even in Philadelphia. And I just became a real estate agent, licensed in 2014. So that's been my walk, and that's how I've been feeding my family really for the last handful of years, is through real estate and really bringing families and communities together, and having a seat when people are really making the biggest decisions of their lives. So that's a little bit of what I've done, and of course, with all those things that I said, there's been a lot of different things that's happened in the middle, but perhaps, when we get into this, we can get more into some of those things as well. But that's the long and short of me.
Definitely. Well, that's a great foundation on which to launch. And, one of the things that always sticks out in my mind is the importance of, and it's probably sounding, a lot of people are probably looking like, yeah, he keep on wanting to make yourself young and you old, but it is true. You're older than me. So I have to say that. But as a young guy, going through, but they don't know about this day and age, going through 3-a-days. Guys like myself, got rest his soul, Kevin Mitchell and Neil Ivey and others got rest his soul as well. It was one of those things where you all led, and I'm going to get at here is the to start our conversation off with talking about the importance of giving back, the importance of understanding, even in a leadership role in high school, you all were giving something to us in terms of leading by example. You weren't in the hallways, you weren't, cutting class, you weren't saying, hey, let's go this way, let's go that way. But at the same time, you weren't beating it down our throats, getting in school. It was fun. And you led by example because you all were stars on the field, but then stars in the hallways and stars in the classroom, and then we won't even talk about lunchtime, but you know, there were things that were done, and then that led to the SATs being taken. And I'll never forget you all going and taking the SATs and coming late to the Cedar Cliff game and,
Wow.
running late to the Cedar Cliff game, but it was because academics was first. I won't forget, that year, which inspired me to not only take and do well on the SATs, even though I didn't, um, but to also prepare for post-secondary education. And seeing you go to Villanova and then Kogi going to Villanova the next year, and then seeing, Kevin Mitchell getting off the bus with the Harrisburg High stuff on at Syracuse, and just think
Mhm.
that with Jason Allen going to Rutgers, and these were people I was just in the locker room with a year and a half, before 2 years before. You all was laying the foundation of Cougar pride and culture based on academics and then excellence on the field as well that we need to get back to. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on this show. Um, there's a firm commitment amongst a lot of us that are still engaged with those of us who aren't here anymore in terms of that's moved away in things. So one of the platforms that we wanted to use was this one to start talking about not only what it was because it's no longer, but to talk about how to get us to where we need to be based on where we were. And if that makes sense, just talking about
All right.
you know, talking about some of the things that you've done, but always gravitate back to home, with or have those values from here that still allows you to move forward in raising your family as you're doing so very well now.
Thank you. You. I remember the Cedar. I just, I haven't thought about that in 30 years. But, um, here's the thing. I was just thinking about before we were, talking today. Like, and I was just going over the thoughts of my years in high school and what motivated me. We've had. I mean, it was tough. Like back in our time to start to even play. I mean, because there were people who could play,
Yeah.
not on our team and on other teams. I mean, Ricky was a couple years before me, Ricky Waters. You had, Sean Bryant, Borowski, you had John Ritchie go to the league, you had Pint, Robert Tate went to the league, on my high school team too, there were two pros whom played for 10 years apiece. So not just like kind of got there, pros. I played against Mike Payton, who was the one double A player of the year in a couple years. Hillside Harrisburg coach I grew up with, George Brown, lived a block away from me, and we went to the same college. Division I football. The same year, David Shepard was number one in the state in rushing. So Jason went to school. Then there was a handful of other guys. We had 18 seniors. I think 8 of us went on to play college football. And that's just my team. I'm not even talking about the year before. I'm not even talking about Troy Drayton, who went to the league. Lee Woodall went to the league. So there was so much competition within my time between our team and other teams that it raised the bar of what you're supposed to do. So I know for me, one of the biggest, we had a coach on our high school team who actually played Canadian football and who went on to D1 football. And he was a great inspiration to me. He's like, wow, I went to do this. I see the same talent in you. So for a man who was, athletic, who was an older guy who went to the league, said you have some of that talent, meant the world to me. So the Micah Parsons and all these guys who go to the league and, going off to college, that was inspiration enough for me to know that it was real. to see Ricky on TV. You know, positive people who look like you, who are doing other things that you can see and touch, meant the world. So that inspired Kevin. You know, like when we were all getting recruited, South Carolina came in, they're all talking to us. So me and Kevin and Jason, we would say, well, what letter you have? Who'd you get letters from? Who'd you get letters from? Oh, where are you going? Oh, I may go here. You know, me and Kevin were talking about going to Syracuse together, you know, but, you know, Kevin's Kevin and I'm not. So, you know, we all have, and those are great. Think about the conversation that our youth have now. We're 17, 18, about God knows what else.
Right.
I remember that specifically, you know, like Penn State came in and was recruiting us. And then, you know, they went in one direction, another. Syracuse, Rutgers, Temple, and all these different schools came in and were talking to us. And that's a great experience. And I would hope that a lot more young men have those. Or, you know, even now when I coached on my daughter's high school team, you know, I had collegiate experience and kids go, wow, oh, you played here, or I know that school. You know, there's nothing like people who look like you who have experience, who have done things. So, you know,
that's a great,
that wonders. And even personally, you know, I remember had a conversation with my father. I was 15 years old or something like that. And he sat down and said, listen, I have a college degree. Your mother has a college degree. Your sister has a college degree. Your other sister has a college degree. What are you going to do, Army or college? That was it. There was no other thing. I was going to go to Army, college. I said college. He said, okay, pass potatoes. That was it. So from my parents, you know, my sister ran track. She has a state title. She dated a man who actually, you know, was married and was Tony Darden, who actually is him and my niece Dominique Darden, who was a Harrisburg track great. Yeah. That's my niece.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, you know, so like
history checks on this show. There you go.
So I know Dom, that's my niece. Like my sister is her daughter, like not like a play niece. So Tony and Dominique, I believe, are the only father-daughter Hall of Famers in the state of Pennsylvania track.
Oh wow!
And she's University of Miami Hall of Fame. He's, I think, a Penn Relays Hall of Fame. And I remember being 6 years old, 7 years old. I was watching the Pan Am games, and he won the Pan Am games. That guy's in my living room.
Right.
So when you see
surrounding yourself with greatness,
right? I said, "Oh wow!" Like wow, not like a game. Like I saw him. He was sitting there in my living room. Right. He's on TV. Howard Cosell was. I remember Howard Cosell was talking about it. Oh, number 2 in the world. And I was like, I know him. So when you see people who look like you, who have a scope, you know, Dad set the bar. I seen it with him. And then coach, you have men who set the bar, and it only allows you to go to that bar. You know, those moments done wonders for me. So my ceiling was opened up, but my lowest level, I knew I wasn't going to drop that far because I had no excuse.
Right. Well, that was we'll take a commercial break. That note right there, talking about expectations, and then we'll on the other side of the commercial, what we'll do is we're talking about, of course, not only athletics and and good peer pressure, but it's okay to mention Coach Jimmy Jones, you know, USC, to help integrate college football from being from Harrisburg. And I forget the gentleman's name, but there were at a time, and I'll have to look it up, but during that time, there were 3 black quarterbacks in Division I football, USC, Penn State, and Notre Dame, and they were all from the Harrisburg area.
Did not know that.
Time. Yeah, and I just learned this yesterday. I can't think of the gentleman that is from the area that was starting at the same time. Coach Mr. Mike Cooper was at Penn State.
Oh,
Coach
wow.
Jones was at USC, and this gentleman was from Notre Dame. Notre Dame. I gotta research that again.
Wow, I never knew that. I mean,
last name is Brown, I believe, though. I have to figure out his first name.
I never knew that. I mean, and it just showed me the player in our area. You got to be a player.
Yeah.
Shout
out to Ray Eisner, Penn State, Michael Irvin killer. That's my man. Low level humility, but a killer in the field. So
that's right.
Again, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and on the other side of this, we'll continue our in-depth conversation with Harrisburg's own Mr. Justin Peace Reeves.
Thank you.
All right, Peace. We are back. So let's talk a little bit about overall about family. You talked about your dad. You talked about your family already setting the bar. What are you doing to make sure your eldest is setting the bar for your youngest? And I understand the gap there, but let's talk about family a bit. Let's talk about where you are and how you've earned those gray hairs. They don't just come; you have to earn those.
I earned them. Well, Julia's great. She's graduated excellent school once again, Cornell. I mean, I can't Ivy League. That said, she's doing her, she's making her way in the world, and she is a good friend, and she has good friends around her, which actually probably makes me the most proud. Is you just never know, what you have with your children and so forth and so on, but you know them by their friends. So all her friends are good people, and they have a good vibe, and they're all about doing something, and they're all about things that are positive. And I think for me, I just try to set the tone for my sons or my children overall, even with Julia, to set the bar high and expect as close to perfection as you can, or expect excellence. Don't shoot for the cellar, shoot for the stars. You may not get the stars. I don't know what that saying is. I think it's like, shoot for the stars. If you miss at least you hit the moon or the heavens. Set the tone and try to, and make sure you set the tone in the house. Don't be a quiet fob, speaking as a man. Don't be a quiet person in the household. Make sure your voice is known and set the tone and set the expectations for you and your family. And don't be afraid to say it. Specifically, I have encountered, death in my life as far as for both of my wives, the mother of both of my sets of my children. Julia was with my first marriage, and my youngest sons are with my second. In my second marriage, both of the ladies unfortunately have passed away way before their time. I think the other important thing other than setting the tone is getting great advocates, people who can assist you, and just showing up. And for things that are that tragic, you want to just be prayerful to the Most High and allow Him to fill in the gaps that you can't do. There's no way I can be a mother. I'm not a mother. Some people say Happy Mother's Day, and they say that's a compliment. That's an insult. I'm not a mom. Never will be. Can't be mom. Biologically can't be mom. Don't want to be mom. I'm a dad. I fill the caretaker role, but there are people that I've always feel that the Most High will send you. I think about the footsteps passage where you prayed for God, so forth and so on. I don't know exactly how it goes, but you were waiting for Him to walk the path or guide a path, and you couldn't see it, and then you turn around and you just saw one set of footsteps, and they weren't yours, they were His, because He was carrying you through. So I'm deeply believing that sometimes you're going to have the Most High give you a path. Sometimes you'll be walking a path and He'll be right beside you. Or sometimes you won't even see a path, and next thing you know, He's taking you on the path. So I deeply believe in that because you just can't fill in those gaps with a loss like that. You just can't. All you can do is be what you can be. And my deepest belief is, I'll throw my hands up to the Most High. And the things I can't do, He does for my sons, or prayerfully has done for my daughter. And so far, so good as far as, Julia. And of course, it's a masterpiece in progress with my sons. But, that's kind of how that was where a lot of gray hairs come from.
Yeah.
Real earn, going through the crucible in that sense. But, I think about, my father passed away. He was, Omega at the, he was an Omega at the Kappa Omega chapter, and proud guy. I think he was the first African American man to be like he was a sports guy. He's from Middletown, born and raised, and I think was the first African American official, with track meets. He was the first in the central Pennsylvania area. So to go through that and to be stricken with multiple, muscular dystrophy, and I've seen cripple him over the years. So the things I've gone through, I've seen real stress in the crucible from my dad, and I've seen how he did it. And I never seen anyone in a weakened condition still be strong, because he just was, his will would be broken. So once again, my bar was low. Like I wasn't going to sink, but so low because he set, people in my life set the bar high. So I never was going to go that low, because everybody they set the bar high. So it's kind of like, you can't, it's like if somebody pulls, the sheets over your head and, or tilt your head up and they keep tilting your head up, you can't look down. So I've just felt very fortunate that there's been people in my life who kept my head up and I never saw down. It never occurred to me to hustle or to kill or any of that stuff that would take us down. I mean, we all had our walks and our trials and tribulations, but I just never saw myself as a failure or that I was going to, and I'm humbled with those things.
So let me ask you this. So not only
Not to say I'm the greatest success, but I won't say that I'm a failure.
Ever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that definitely that speaks volumes, and it also highlights the fact of being surrounded with good, positive peers and adults in terms of community expectation overall. Because you alluded to it earlier, having whether it was a coaching staff or a teaching corps or administrations at the school district, there was a time. There are still great coaches, still great administrators, and great teachers. But it was it was overflowing. We were blessed to have those coaching staffs, to have from Mr. Lewis Rowley and ROTC, and just people in the building, so to speak, whether that was at Harrisburg High or William Penn campus, and everywhere in between. So we were truly blessed and fortunate, and that culture is not necessarily here in the forms of those individuals as a collective, but it is, I'll say, piecemeal to a certain degree. We had the Des Mangus and the Charles Chisholms and Greg Campbell's, as we were even outside of school, and of course, last but certainly not least, Sherman Cunningham. So when we talk about individuals in our community, inside those school walls as well as outside, that truly made up community in totality. And so, what do you say? Because I mean, you've touched on the topics, that I wanted to, and I know, we have a time frame here. I want to be respectful of that because of family
Appreciate that.
obligations.
Yeah, I'll be running out as we get off here.
Yeah. So my thing was, I wanted to make sure that we talked about, of course, your humble beginnings, which we have. I wanted to talk about, of course, your perseverance, which I was familiar with. So thank you for sharing your stories about, heaven's gains 2 times over in the forms of your wives. Um, and then we wanted to talk about faith, and you intertwined all it in. So we could end with, if you don't mind, just talking a little bit about how you're giving back. Yes, it's your profession in terms of the real estate side. And yes, it helps you support your family, but it's also a process of giving back. Affordable housing and or home ownership is, as American can get. However, there was a lot of racial barriers that were placed in our way historically, but now you're helping break some of those barriers through home ownership, accessing capital and resources to not only support generational wealth building, but also to help with the revitalization of communities through home ownership. So talk a bit about that. We'll end on that note. As a
Sure.
professional, just gained your real estate license, still learning, and
Right.
giving back.
Yep. Well, I tell you, I sent you a bio a little earlier, and I thought about some of the things that are in the bio, and it's ministry in a lot of ways, and it's a tool to educate. And the thing about it is, I think about us, African Americans and our experience, and I think we give ourselves a very hard time. I think we take a lot of time to talk about the things that are bad in our communities and how this is wrong and that's wrong and why can't whatever, and so forth and so on. But with a little education, so much can be gained. A lot of times we just don't know that we can. It's almost that it's the opportunity and to open. It's kind of like if your eyes are down, can you see up? If your eyes are down, if you can just bring your eyes up, you can see all these wonderful things. So there's people whom I work with who look like me and like you, and they just might not have known they were going to rent. But why don't you buy? No one asked them the question before. Ask them well, I never thought I could buy. Well, why not? Because it's so expensive. Well, how expensive do you think it is? Well, I only have about $5,000. Well, that's enough to buy a house. Well, my credit is, don't you have to have 800 credit? No, you can have 620. Really? Well, there's programs. And all you have to do is tell people, inform them. Just a lot of it is information, and someone just to tell them that you can.
Right.
And once you show them information, it's funny because it just happened today. This young lady I helped buy a house 2 years ago. Okay, she told me about her friend. I talked to her friend about a year ago. I said, there's a couple things you need to work on. I didn't hear from her for about a year. Okay, hear from her last week. And hey, I've been looking for a house. She's pre-approved, not a whole bunch of money, but she has it. And I've been looking here, 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 and here. I said, well, why don't you look here? Oh, wow. I didn't know and she saw a house Saturday. We made offers Monday. We just signed a contract literally not 2 hours ago.
Wow. Amen. There you go.
Now, young Black family, I don't think both of them are over 30. Right. Now, beautiful. So that's God's work right there to me. So what I'm doing, instead of them renting, they are going to purchase and then have at least $150,000 of something. That's going to go up at least 3% a year. And I'm being conservative. So that's $4,500. Then it's $5,000. Then it's $6,000. And then we already talked about a plan with them staying in there for 5 years. Equity, I can't say what it's going to be, But okay, maybe it's worth 175,000 in 5 years. Okay, we'll sell it, commission, da da da. Walk away with 10, 15,000, take that 10, 15,000, and then go get a house that you really want. And this way you're not pulling anything out of pocket. There you go, you know? And now there's another family not paying, like I've owned a lot of property. And I jokingly say to some people, hey, listen, I'll let you pay my children's college tuition if you want to. I'm not going to stop you. If you want to pay someone else, if you want to pay my bills, help yourself. But pay your bills. Right. So a lot of it is opportunity. People think they need millions and millions of, you don't. You just need information. And that's 50% of the battle.
Gotcha.
You know, so I consider it in a lot of ways. It pays the bills for me, but it's generational wealth that's created. That is the oldest and the most lucrative industry in the history of man, real estate. They're not making any anymore. There's no more real estate to be made. The land is the land. It's only going up in value.
And on that note, we'll take a quick commercial break. And on the other side of this, we'll give you some closing remarks, and then we'll end. So again, you're joining us here at a seat at the table with Harrisburg's own Mr. Justin Peace Reeves. We'll see you on the other side of this commercial break.
Thank you.
Because this way y'all can just, so we're back, and what we'll do is we'll give you this last 30 seconds just to, first, I'd just like to say thank you for thinking of that robbery and taking the time out to be here as our guest. You are one of the first that we're going to honor as part of what we're calling Black Excellence 365. I'm sorry, Black Excellence Beyond February 365 24/7. And we are starting with one of Harrisburg's own, Mr. Justin Peace Reeves. So thank you. And on that note, we will give you closing remarks to take us out.
Oh, well, listen, I have to give it back to you. You know, when I reach back to a couple people in Harrisburg and I talk about people who are part of the solution, not the part of the problem, you know, your name comes up. So you've always been that guy, been enterprising and about making Harrisburg a better place for everybody. So, you know, I thank you for the opportunity, you know, and if in any way I can help you shed a light on some of the positive aspects of Harrisburg and the upliftment of Harrisburg, you know, it'll be my honor to be a part of that. So thank you. Thank you.
Really appreciate that. And of course, I'm going to say again, it is definitely, and I'm sincere. I mean, we talk about it. My family, I still highlight, you know, like I just said to you and Kevin and Jason Allen getting off those buses at, you know, it's burned in my mind at Patriot News, having those pictures of you all getting off the buses and things in Syracuse and Villanova and Rutgers, you know, and, you know, so I just thank you all for being an inspiration to those of us who are younger coming up. Even though you used to have us, you know, sleeping in the hot weight room during 3 days of those breaks while y'all were in the auditorium in the AC. Got love for you anyway. But shout out to class of 89, 88, 89, all that stuff. Thanks again, Justin Peace Reeves, and best wishes to you, your family, both your personal family and your professional family. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.